Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in that situation where you meet a guy, the chemistry feels right, the energy's there, but suddenly he starts to pull away, he gets distant, the texts slow down, and you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? What happened? I'll tell you what happened, not because you said the wrong thing, but because you never said the right thing. See, we've all been taught the same old rules: play hard to get, act cool, don't show too much interest. But the problem with those outdated games, they don't create real connection. They don't make a man respect you, and they sure as hell don't make him chase you like crazy. But words, the right words, they're powerful. They shape the way a man sees you. They plant seeds in his mind that have him thinking about you long after you walk away. They flip the dynamic so that suddenly he's the one wondering how to keep your attention. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. You see, there are certain phrases, I call them the forbidden phrases, that most women never dare to say, either because they're afraid of losing him or because they don't realize how magnetic, how desirable, how mind-melting these words can be. But once you understand the psychology behind them, once you deliver them with the right energy, everything changes. Suddenly, you go from the one chasing to the one being chased, from the one hoping he chooses you to the one he can't get off his mind. And no, this isn't about manipulation. It's not about playing games. It's about embodying the kind of quiet confidence and self-worth that makes you completely unforgettable. Because here's the truth. Men are wired to pursue what they respect. They're drawn to what challenges them, what sparks their curiosity, what feels slightly out of reach, but undeniably worth the effort. And when you speak with that energy, when your words say, I like you, but I'm good on my own, I respect myself too much to settle, I don't compete for attention, it flips a switch in his mind. It creates desire. It builds respect. It makes him chase you, not because you tricked him, but because you reminded him that you are the prize. So if you're ready to stop second guessing your worth,
If you're ready to stop chasing,
and if you're ready to let your words do the work for you, lean in, because what I'm about to share with you, it'll change the way you communicate with men, and it'll change the way they chase you. The right words create instant attraction. It's incredible how often we underestimate the power of our words, especially when it comes to attraction. So many people focus entirely on how they look, what they wear, or how much they post on social media, thinking that's what keeps a man interested. But the truth, it's the words you use that create real, lasting impact. A single phrase delivered with confidence and authenticity can flip the entire dynamic with a man. It can move you from just another person in his orbit to the one who stays in his head long after the conversation ends. See, attraction isn't just about physical chemistry, it's psychological. It's emotional. It happens when a man starts to associate you with feelings he doesn't get from anyone else. And your words, they plant those feelings, those ideas, those sparks in his mind. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people either say too much or say nothing that matters. They overshare their insecurities, their worries, or they fall into polite, forgettable conversations that never leave an imprint. But when you use the right words, the phrases that communicate confidence, self-worth, and a little bit of playful mystery, you immediately stand out. You speak to a part of him that craves challenge, connection, and curiosity. Imagine saying to a man, I love spending time with you, but I'm also perfectly happy on my own. It's simple. It's honest. But the message behind it, it's electric. You've told him you enjoy him, but you're not dependent on him. You've shown interest without losing your independence. And that tiny, powerful sentence, it makes him lean in. It makes him think, wait, she's not chasing me. I need to step up. The same applies when you say, I respect myself way too much to settle for less than I deserve. You're not playing games. You're simply setting the bar. And suddenly, you're not another woman hoping he chooses you. You're the one he now has to impress. This is the secret most people miss. Attraction isn't about controlling someone else's behavior. It's about owning your energy and your words in a way that naturally draws the right person in. So forget the overthinking. Forget memorizing lines. Focus on the message your words send. Speak from self-respect. Speak from independence. Speak from that quiet confidence that says, I know who I am. I enjoy your company, but I don't need to chase you. Because when you use the right words, you don't just get his attention, you stay in his head, you shift the entire dynamic, and suddenly he's the one chasing you. Independence is magnetic. Let me tell you something that flips a man's brain completely upside down. Independence. I'm not talking about that fake, I don't need anyone energy people throw around when they're secretly craving connection. I mean real grounded independence. The kind that says, I like you, but I don't need you to breathe. That energy. It melts his mind. See, there's a common misunderstanding. People think if you're too independent, you'll scare men off. But here's the truth. The right kind of man isn't scared of your independence. He's drawn to it. It challenges him. It shows him that your life isn't waiting around for someone to complete it. It's already happening with or without him. And that creates desire in a way that nothing else can. When you express something as simple as, I love spending time with you, but I'm also perfectly happy on my own, it does more than just sound nice. It sends a clear, undeniable message. It tells him you enjoy his presence, but you're not desperate for it. Your happiness is not dependent on his attention. You're whole, complete, and already living a life you love. Suddenly, you become different from every other interaction he's had, because most people, let's be honest, are looking for someone to fill the gaps in their life, to fix their loneliness, to bring them validation. But when you show up already filled, already fulfilled, already lit up by your own passions, your own goals, your own life, that independence is magnetic. He doesn't feel pressure to save you. He feels inspired to earn a place in your world. And here's the wild part. Independence doesn't mean you're cold or distant. It means you've built a life that excites you, and now someone gets to join that life if they bring the right energy. It means your happiness doesn't hinge on a text message, a date, or his attention. You've already got your foundation. And the moment he senses that, the dynamic shifts completely. You're no longer another person hoping he chooses you. You become the person he's curious about, the one he can't stop thinking about, the one who makes him step up, not because you asked him to, but because your independence quietly demands it. So don't dim your independence to seem more approachable. Don't downplay your goals, your passions, your happiness. Own it, live it, speak from it, because your independence, it doesn't scare the right man away. It draws him in and makes him chase you like crazy. High standards build respect. You know what instantly makes a man sit up, pay attention, and see you differently? Standards, not ultimatums, not demands, but quiet, unshakable standards that say, I know my worth and I won't settle for anything less. It's wild how often we forget this. Somewhere along the line, we start thinking, if we're too vocal about what we want, too clear about what we deserve, we'll scare him away. But here's what most people miss. The right man isn't scared of your standards. He's attracted to them. Why? Because standards create respect. And without respect, there's no real attraction, at least not the kind that lasts. When you say to a man, I respect myself way too much to settle for less than I deserve, you're not being harsh. You're not being difficult. You're stating calmly and confidently that your time, your energy, your heart, they are valuable. And if he wants access to them, he needs to show up the right way. That sentence alone, it melts his mind. Because most people don't say that. Most people bend their standards the moment they like someone. They ignore the red flags. They make excuses for bad behavior. They accept crumbs of attention and call it a connection. And what happens, the person on the other side loses respect fast. But when you communicate your standards with confidence, without being defensive or aggressive, something shifts. You become the person who doesn't just talk about self-worth. You live it, you walk it, and that energy, it's magnetic. Here's the thing, standards aren't about being rigid or unapproachable. They're about protecting your peace. They're about knowing you'd rather be single than stressed. You'd rather wait for the right connection than force the wrong one. And men, the ones worth your time, they feel that, they respect that, they rise to meet that. But this only works if you believe it. You can't say the words and secretly doubt yourself. You can't declare your standards and then accept less behind closed doors. Your actions have to match your words. When they do, you stop chasing respect. You command it. And suddenly, he's not thinking, how do I get her attention? He's thinking, how do I earn a place in her life? That's the power of high standards. They don't push the right man away. They challenge him to step up. And that challenge, that melts his mind and makes him chase you like crazy. Non-competition energy creates certainty. There's something deeply attractive, almost hypnotic, about a woman who refuses to compete for a man's attention. And let me be clear, I don't mean walking around with arrogance or acting like no one's good enough for you. I'm talking about that quiet, unshakable energy that says, I'm not here to prove my worth to you. I know my worth. You either see it or you lose it. That energy, it completely melts a man's mind. See, here's what most people do without even realizing it. They get caught up in subtle competition, trying to be more attractive than the other women in the room, checking his social media to see who he's following, adjusting their behavior to keep his attention. But what does that really say? It screams insecurity. It says, I'm not enough as I am, so I need to fight for your validation. And the moment that energy creeps in, the dynamic shifts and not in your favor. But when you stand in your self-worth, when you carry yourself with that certainty that you don't compete for anyone's attention, everything changes. Suddenly, you're not the one playing the game. You've already won your own. You've already chosen yourself. And that's powerful. Imagine saying to a man, I don't compete for anyone's attention. It's not a threat. It's not an ultimatum. It's simply a reflection of how much you value yourself. It tells him you don't beg.
You don't chase.
You don't engage in games. You know that real connection doesn't require fighting for scraps of attention. It requires mutual respect, effort, and clarity. And if he's not bringing that to the table, you'll happily walk away, not with drama, but with grace. Here's what happens in a man's mind when you show up with that energy. He feels it, he sees it, and suddenly you're not just another option, you're the option. You're the one who isn't battling for a spot in his life because your life is already full, already valuable, already worth living. That kind of certainty, it's intoxicating. It makes him question his own behavior. It makes him step up or step aside. And for the right man, it makes him chase you, not because you played a game, but because you removed yourself from the game altogether. So never shrink yourself down to compete. Never lower your standards to win someone over. Stand tall, stay grounded, know your worth so deeply that competing for attention feels beneath you. Because the moment you embrace that energy, you'll stop chasing men and they'll start chasing you. Authenticity is the key. Let me tell you something most people completely overlook when it comes to attraction: authenticity. It sounds simple, right? But in reality, it's one of the rarest, most powerful things you can bring to the table. And it completely melts a man's mind when you do. We live in a world of filters, not just on photos, but on personalities, conversations, even intentions. People walk around trying to be what they think someone wants, saying the right things, playing roles, avoiding vulnerability, and wondering why real connection never shows up. But here's the truth. A man can feel authenticity. It cuts through the noise. It grabs his attention in a way no perfectly rehearsed line or carefully crafted cool girl persona ever could. Those forbidden phrases that make a man chase you, they only work when they come from real confidence, not an act. You can't say, I love spending time with you, but I'm perfectly happy on my own if deep down you don't believe it. He'll sense the disconnect instantly. You can't say, I don't compete for attention while secretly refreshing his social media every 2 minutes, wondering if you're enough. But when you do the inner work, when you know your value, when you've built a life you're proud of, when your words match your energy, that's when those phrases hit different. That's when he leans in, curious, captivated, wondering how you became so rare in a world full of masks. See, authenticity isn't about oversharing. It's not about dumping your life story or forcing deep conversations. It's about being comfortable enough in your own skin that you don't need to perform. You don't need to impress. You just show up real, flawed, grounded, and you let him experience you.
And
That's magnetic, because while everyone else is trying to say what they think will get a reaction, you're simply being real. You're the one reminding him what genuine connection feels like. And trust me, that's rare enough to melt his mind. But here's the thing, authenticity takes courage. It takes knowing that not everyone will like you and being completely okay with that. It takes understanding that rejection isn't personal, it's redirection. It takes standing in your worth so firmly that you'd rather lose someone for being real than keep them by playing a part. And when you live from that space, you don't just attract men, you attract the right men, the ones who crave realness, the ones who see authenticity and can't get enough of it. So forget the act, forget the games, be you, unapologetically, authentically, beautifully, because that's what melts his mind and makes him chase you like crazy.
men chase what they respect.
There's a hard truth most people don't want to admit. If a man doesn't respect you, he won't chase you. Sure, he might text here and there, he might flirt, he might stick around for convenience, but that deep, undeniable desire, the kind that makes him pursue you, invest in you, want to claim a real place in your life, that only happens when there's respect. And here's the beautiful part. Respect isn't something you demand with attitude. It's something you command with how you carry yourself. See, everything we've talked about, your independence, your standards, your non-competition energy, your authenticity, it all feeds into one thing, self-respect. And the moment you show a man how much you respect yourself, you give him the blueprint for how to treat you. Let me say that again. The way you treat yourself silently teaches everyone around you how to treat you, especially men. When you communicate phrases like, I respect myself way too much to settle for less than I deserve. I love spending time with you, but I'm perfectly happy on my own. I don't compete for anyone's attention. Those aren't just words, they are signals. They tell him, you're not desperate. You're not shrinking yourself to be chosen. You're not molding your standards to keep someone around. And that energy, it earns respect. Now, here's where it gets interesting. A man may be physically attracted to you without respecting you. That happens all the time. But that doesn't make him chase you in a meaningful way. That doesn't make him step up, invest, commit, or try to keep you in his life. That only happens when there's respect alongside attraction. When a man respects you, you become more than a moment. You become a challenge, an inspiration, someone who elevates his life. And human nature is simple. We chase what we respect. We work for what we value. So if you want a man to chase you, not for attention, not for ego, but for something real, it starts with the energy you bring, the boundaries you hold, the way you model how you expect to be treated. And guess what? The wrong men now fall away when they see that energy, but the right ones, the high value, emotionally mature, relationship ready men, they'll lean in, they'll chase, they'll step up. Not because you manipulated them, but because your self-respect quietly demanded it. That's how you flip the script. That's how you stop chasing men and make them chase you like crazy. So let's be real for a second. We've all been conditioned to believe that making a man chase you requires some complicated formula that you've got to play it cool, act aloof, suppress your feelings, or somehow trick him into wanting you. But let me tell you something, the most attractive, magnetic, irresistible thing you can ever do is to simply stand in your worth. And that's exactly what these 3 forbidden phrases are all about. They're not tricks. They're not games. They're reflections of your mindset. They're proof of how much you value yourself. They're words that communicate loud and clear. I am the prize, and I'm not here to convince you of that. You either see it or you miss out. When you say to a man, I love spending time with you, but I'm perfectly happy on my own, what you're really saying is, I choose you, but I don't need you. And that energy, that freedom, it drives him crazy in the best way possible. When you say, I respect myself way too much to settle for less than I deserve,
You send a message most people are too afraid to express that you have standards, that you won't lower yourself to be liked, and that instantly makes you stand out.
and when you say, I don't compete for anyone's attention, you remind them you're not here playing games. You know your value, and you're not afraid to walk away if someone can't see it. These phrases, when said with confidence and authenticity, don't just get a man's attention, they earn his respect. They create curiosity. They plant that seed of desire that has him wondering how to be the man who deserves you. Because at the end of the day, attraction isn't about proving yourself to someone else. It's about knowing you don't have to. It's about creating space for the right person to step up, lean in, and pursue you for the right reasons. Not because you begged for it, but because your energy made it undeniable. So as you walk away from this conversation, I want you to remember this. You never have to chase love. You never have to shrink to fit into someone's life. You never have to fight for attention. When you own your worth, when you speak your truth, when you lead with quiet confidence, the right man, he won't just notice you, he'll chase you like crazy. Because suddenly, you won't just be another person in the crowd. You'll be the woman who melted his mind with nothing but your words.